You're all set, Dennis.
Okay, I'll call this meeting of the Budget and Finance Committee to order on this March 19th at 6:31 p.m. All members of the committee are present. I don't see any minutes from our meeting in the packet from the last meeting, so there's no. Do you have any minutes to?
No,
No.
that was our 2-minute meeting.
Yeah, so there's no minutes in there that were approved. Public comment. I know we have some people on Zoom, but I believe they're all officials. So is there anybody on Zoom or in the room that wants to speak during public comment? I don't hear or see anyone. I don't know if the volume's even working, but anyway, I don't see anyone. So let's go right to our legislation refer. There's 11 items here that we need to act on or not act on. The first one is FY 24-027, the FY 25 water and sewer rates. So Mike, I don't know if Michael wants to give an explanation. By the way, the superintendent is here. I don't know if he wanted to take anything out of order. Michael, did you just want to give an update on the water and sewer rates for fiscal 2025?
Sure. So so what you've got in front of you are proposed rates for sewer and water. The proposed sewer rates, as we've talked about at council a number of times, we're going through phase one of a plant rehab. So the rates here go up. These rates go up 50%, which is a huge increase. Most users won't see that level of increase, just the way the billing works out. But the rates you see in front of you go up 50%. So that's the sewer rates. We've calculated these rates so that they pay. Really, the only additional thing we're paying for are is the debt on the sewer project. So that's really, it's all devoted to that. The water rates are going up approximately 7%. That comes on the heels a few years ago of a pretty healthy increase to pay for the High Street water plant. So the 7% reflects really the cumulative inflation and the cost of providing the water. So that's really the two rate increases there. So these are the sizable. Obviously, sewer is more sizable than water, but those are the rates that are in front of you.
So what would the average bill be for a 50% increase for, a homeowner?
I mean, I think most people, Michael, correct me if I'm wrong, most residents, as far as water goes, fall within the tier 1.
Correct.
Right? Most.
Yeah.
So you're looking at a 0.2, like you said, 7% increase.
Yeah, I'm asking on the sewer.
On the sewer.
50% is
It's a lot.
huge number.
It's a lot. So what is in the 50%? It's covering the cost of their operation, which is normal inflation, and it's covering the cost of the bond, right?
Correct. Yep. Correct. Just for phase one. We haven't, as you recall, we haven't addressed phase two because phase two cost projections came in so far beyond what had been projected a couple of years ago that we're going back to the EPA and the DEP to ask for another affordability analysis to hopefully either reduce the scope of what we have to do or at least let us phase it in a little bit more practically. But you're right, Dennis, those two, the operation costs for the sewer plant pays for staffing, all the things we normally pay for. The bulk of the increase is to pay for the bond that is required for the construction of the renovation.
When was the last increase?
So That's a great question. Any substantive increase predates me, so it probably Lori, I don't know, so in terms of significant increase to probably 13, 15 years ago, something like that.
Yeah.
It was an increase recently, though,
On the water side, there was,
water side.
right, right.
So this water and sewer would affect our large users, for example, the correctional facility, the university, and the regional schools district, I assume as well, right?
It actually does not affect the DOC. The DOC gets its water from Taunton and gets and then has its own on-site wastewater treatment. So it wouldn't affect the DOC. It would affect BSU. So BSU would see about a 49% increase on the sewer side, and then a much smaller increase on the water side.
How many, I'm trying to get back to my question, how many residents are on the sewer system? And what would the average cost go from what to what, if we could pick?
So I would say so sewer is not a, overall, despite the fact that we're talking about a sizable percentage increase. If you're a average resident, I'm going to say your average bill will go from about 133 to 151.
Okay,
A quarter.
Right, correct.
okay.
So I
Did you
think,
get your answer on the schools? Is the schools gonna be affected by this too?
Lori, the schools
do they pay?
affected, do we
send the water and sewer bill, or do we pay it? The town pay it? So, I got it.
we pay it?
No, I'm
Or-
pretty sure the school pays it,
Yeah, okay.
as far as I'm aware.
This would impact them, obviously.
Mm.
Impact, I don't know. I'm uncomfortable with, I don't know,
I am too.
quickly.
Unfortunately, I kind of believe in gradual increases. 50% in 1 year just seems, I understand the debt. I know that we have to pay off the debt and it kicks the can down the road, but that's a lot. I mean, what would it affect for the schools? I'm just curious. Do we have any idea what the school increase would be? Because the school's wrestling with their budget, and I am going to ask to take the other item out of order
Right,
for the
okay.
superintendent after this. But what would this increase for the schools be? We just built a brand new school that probably has,
I don't know.
Yeah, we'd have to get that for you, Mark.
We can-
We'd have the water and sewer department get the
okay,
info back to you.
okay,
And just for you two information, I did receive information that the finance committee did not act on this last night. They didn't vote it up or down.
okay,
They wanted to see, I think, how we voted or get more information. So they haven't acted yet. We can hold off on this and meet before the council meeting next Tuesday, if we want to, or we can vote it up or down right now.
I-
If you got questions you want answered between now and then, we can hold off. on this.
yeah, yeah.
Sean,
So
do you have anything?
I'd like to see some of the numbers as well.
Huh?
I'd like to see some of the numbers as
Okay.
well.
So what's the appropriate motion to postpone this to
We'll just
the next week?
Yeah, take no action. at the
Take no
moment.
action.
And we'll set up a meeting next Tuesday at 6:30,
Okay.
okay? So we'll hold.
We need to vote that.
I looked at my bill, just, and based on these numbers, and if my most recent bill was at the 2025 rate, it would be a $40 increase. A
Per
quarter,
quarter.
just in the sewer,
Okay, right.
just in the sewer, assuming.
Yeah.
I use.
So do we need to vote? Do we need to vote?
No, we can just go on to number 2.
Okay. Could I ask that we take item J out of order? Order O FY 24-037, dealing with the Bridgewater Rainham School District Capital Assessment.
There's a motion to take J out of order. Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. So we're gonna act on J FY 24-037. It's the Bridgewater Rainham School District Capital Asset Proposal, which is in the back of our packet somewhere here. So, Michael, do you just want to go over some of the capital needs that we're
Sure.
looking for? Is this something that you're putting forward at the request of the schools, or?
That's actually, you hit on a good question. The short answer is yes. So we had a little bit of confusion last year, the year before. And really the way that this should work is the way that it's being presented to you here. So the school district develops a capital plan on their own, and then they develop an annual an annual request, or in which they assess the two towns, Bridgewater and Rainham. So similar to the budget, the capital assessment is something that we pay. We have to pay. There are mechanisms to go through if you don't want to pay it, but I'm not going to talk about those. Those are irrelevant for our conversation. So in order to get this in front of the council and get it voted, it comes to you obviously as an assessment, and we put in the explanation how the district intends to use it. There is no, the law is very clear. There's a capital assessment. We don't control how that money gets allocated or used. That's a chore for the school district committee, and so we just have to arrange to pay for the capital assessment. But so that I think your supposition is sort of correct, Dennis, that it's on here. I'm sponsoring it at the request of the school district, which is in response to their assessment. And in terms of the actual projects, I would turn it over to Ryan and Tola to just go over the actual intended use, if that's suitable.
Sure, absolutely. Thank you, Michael. Good evening, everyone. Good to see you. I apologize for those of you that were on last night. I just couldn't make it due to a conflict, so I'm happy to be able to be here tonight. Yes, just to kind of reiterate Michael's point, these are the capital items that were identified prior to the development of the FY24 budget and submitted to the town along with our assessments for the operating budget. So these were items identified really last year for this fiscal year to be completed. I know Laurie has I think in the packet had included some of these items. So just to kind of give you a quick update, we're in various stages. So either the project has been completed, the project is either out to bid, or there's been no action taken at this point for a variety of different reasons. One, due to costs, it just wouldn't make sense for us to, I'm sure, much like you, we try to have a pretty solid indication of what a project may cost before we even go out to bid. And with some of the projects, the number is coming back so high that we really had to either scale back the project significantly or just haven't gone out to bid, hoping that maybe some projects come back lower later. So one of those projects being the first on your list, looking to take care of the Bridgewater Middle School parking lot out front. So that would be, repairing the pavement, restriping the lot. That was estimated to be at about $200,000. Estimates now, initial estimates before we've actually gone out to bid. Some of the companies that do some work for us were quoting, $300,000 to $400,000 for potential costs. So the director of facilities hasn't taken any action on that item just yet. The rear of the Bridgewater Middle School, again, addressing the parking lot, crack sealing, seal coating, that is starting this spring. And that actually came in lower than anticipated. We were initially thinking about $50,000. The quote we have right now is for 22 plus. So there'll be some savings there. The Bridgewater Middle School shades, that project is out to bid. So we don't have a true estimate of what that's going to cost at this point. Bridgewater Middle School printers, looking to replace the printers there. That project hasn't been started. Some of the technology items that we were originally had put on capital for both towns, we're finding that, you know, we're able to, as the year goes on, replace those more from the operational IT budget. So some of those may actually not come to fruition. Same thing with the Chromebooks. The phone system, that is obviously going to be a big project for us. We know we need to upgrade the phone system at Bridgewater Middle School, but that project has not started yet. The Williams Intermediate School, same thing along the lines of the parking lot. That is starting this spring. We initially thought about 75,000, and the prices come in a little bit lower, just under 50. So again, some cost savings there. LED lighting upgrades. We're trying to, you know, upgrade to LEDs wherever we can across the district, both inside and outside. Really the emphasis right now has been on the outside as much as possible, getting all the parking lot lights upgraded. So that will be, you know, going out soon. The Williams replacing those shades have been out to bid. We just haven't received those numbers back yet. The document cameras at Williams, that project was complete. The 4x4 plow dump truck, we did receive that. That did come in higher than anticipated. You can see there, the estimate was about 48,000. That actually came in a little over 80. So that was a little bit higher. The firewall, that has been completed as well, and that project was on budget. The plow truck, the 4x4 plow truck, so pickup truck or utility truck, same thing, that came in a little bit higher. We had estimated about 45. That came in at about 65. The turf field lighting, that project is complete. And again, that came in a little bit higher as well. We'd originally hoping for 48. And then that project came in a little less than 80. The high school lecture hall projector basically was on budget, little over, but not significantly. That project is complete. And then we're just finishing up the installation of the smart boards. You probably have seen them if you've been into our buildings or offices. We have those interactive TV panels, kind of the new souped up smart boards. So we anticipated about 183,000 for the high school project. I know the last time I talked to IT, that was going to be a little bit over, but I don't have a final number yet because they haven't quite finished that project. So, you know, typically what we've done in the past, to Michael's point, we do try to use the money that's given to us by both towns for the projects that we've requested. You can see, obviously, there have been times where once we have that money, instead of going back to you, if a project comes in higher, you know, the savings that we may have from a project that came in lower, we just reallocate that to a different project. You know, but we certainly, what we've asked for in terms of funding, those projects are the ones that we've identified to work on. You know, it's a rare occasion where we have to scrap a whole project and, you know, rededicate the funds somewhere else. I can't really recall that happening anytime recently. I obviously, unexpected things come up that sometimes take priority, as you know, you well know, on the town side. So there is always that possibility, but I know in at least the last couple of years and even prior to that, really what we were asking for from the towns on both sides is really what we've tried to allocate the money for and not veer off that. And really, you know, again, if a project comes in higher, we've really tried to not go back to you and ask for additional funding, because we know there in some of the projects that they come in less. And so therefore we're just moving that money around. And if need be, obviously tapping into some of the operational funds that may be left over for a project.
But regardless, the monies appropriated would be used for capital needs, right?
Yes, 100%. Yes, we're not shifting any of this capital money to operational budget.
And I understand you might have to deviate. That can happen.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Mark.
Quick question. So what is the total number? Is this the total number,
Yeah.
or is it higher?
Well, it's what's in the packet is 1,085,000.
Because, you know, if you have vehicles that are 48, but it's more like 80, and you have another one.
But there's
that's-
other areas that were lower.
But I don't know if it makes, so is that the number we're voting on?
Yes.
Thank you.
Ryan, quick question.
Sure.
The items that are district-wide and high school, are those allocated between Bridgewater and Rainham? Or is? So
Yes,
that's-
yes, so that's that would be a proportional distribution. So yes, those are the high school and district-wide. Those are using the enrollment formula so that those projects are split.
Okay, so like, for instance, the AB classroom, the 183, 330, that's Bridgewater's portion.
So these-
Rainham will have a portion of it as well, correct?
Yes, correct.
Okay. Good.
Any other questions? So the process is if something, the money is just transferred from capital to the Bridgewater Rainham Regional School District capital, Michael, and then as a project moves forward, the invoices are sent to the town and the town pays the bill, or does the school pay, the school administer this capital fund?
Actually, once voted, and Lori can correct me if I'm wrong, but once voted, the money is simply transferred to the school district.
Okay, so we don't, we don't monitor the invoices or anything.
No, right, we pay all that.
Any other questions? Is there a motion to approve?
So moved. To
Second.
recommend.
Recommend.
Second.
Is the motion to recommend to the full council in a second? Any other discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay, so we will be recommending this to the council next Tuesday night.
Great. Thank you very much. I appreciate it.
Be prepared for questions.
Okay. Now we'll go back to item B. It's a couple of grant for the Council on Aging. Mass Cultural Council grant.
Motion to recommend.
Second.
Is a motion to recommend. Is there a second?
Yep.
Second. Any discussion?
Nope.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Yes. Next item is FY 24029, acceptance of a grant for community transit program for the Mass DOT.
Make a motion to recommend.
Second.
Is a motion to recommend, and there's a second, any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Passes. Order D, FY 24030, acceptance of a grant for the Police Department Justice Assistance Program.
Motion.
Go ahead.
I'll make the motion to recommend.
Second.
There's a motion and there's a second, any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Passes. Item E, acceptance of a grant for the Fire Department, Department of Fire Services.
Motion to recommend.
Second.
So motion to recommend and a second. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Passes. Order FY 24032, acceptance of a grant, Council on Aging, Massachusetts Home and Community-Based Services Grant.
Motion to recommend.
Second.
There's a motion to recommend and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Passes. Item G, order FY 24033, Town Council acceptance of proposed licenses, permits, and fee increases.
We made a motion to defer to the next meeting, correct?
Well, we did the water and sewer rates.
Oh, okay.
That was the first.
Good. All right.
This one here, I don't have too many,
Oh, yeah.
I don't have too many problems with it. It's been, how long since these, have been upgraded, Michael?
For the most part, at least 12 years.
12 years, but some of these are doubling, so that's, yeah.
Yeah, so let me give you a little bit of context here. What we did is we went to, first of all, the council should be approving this every year prior to budget process. So this is the result of Lori and her staff's yeoman work to get everything consolidated into one place. So it makes it that much easier to do this on an annual basis. So and what we did is we went back to the department heads and we said, look, you need to give us all your fees. You need to do your research to make sure that our fees are, roughly in parity with all the towns in the southeast area of Massachusetts, and make sure that the fees reflect the actual work that has to be done on whatever permit or whatever license we are actually issuing. So that's what they did. Many of them unchanged. Some of them have changed slightly. And some have changed more dramatically, but again, the point of the fee, the licensing or permitting fee is to pay for the work that it takes the town to actually issue that license. And there's a lot of background that goes in, a lot of stuff goes on in the background before we ever issue any licenses or fees. But that's the point of municipal licenses and fees is to essentially reimburse the town for the cost of issuing that license or fee. If that makes sense.
Michael, any particular reason or do you, any understanding on some of these that we don't charge at all and now we're gonna charge a pretty significant amount? I'm surprised we didn't charge for it at all.
If you give me an example, it's generally, I was looking at some of the building.
Cuts opening, commercial, perpendicular right of way, 15 linear feet extra, doesn't have anything in the current, has 200 is the recommended. So unless I'm reading it wrong, this graph says we don't charge anything for that.
Can I speak to that, Michael? Just real
Sure,
quick?
go ahead, Lori. Yep.
So what the building department did specifically is, they really did a thorough analysis of their current rates for residential, commercial, based on townwide and over the Commonwealth wide too. And they segregated all of their fees, from residential. A lot of them were already residential and commercial, but they went through the process and they made residential and commercial in a lot of these. So some of them weren't really categorized into. So I think if you look, there might be a residential one that's just not showing up. I mean, that's how he explained it to me.
So they split out residential from commercial instead of having just having one fee for something.
Correct.
Okay.
Okay,
The other thing, Sean, just as an aside, the other thing is that there are things that that are new to the building code that they're required to issue permits for that they weren't required to issue separate permits for before. One is is sheet metal, something to do with sheet metal, so that may appear on here with no current amount but a proposed amount, things like that.
thank you.
Michael, just out of curiosity, why would a license on a Sunday be less than a license on a weekday?
Are you looking at entertainment by any chance?
I'm looking at the live entertainment on Sundays is going from 125 to 150. Live entertainment on weekdays is 150 to 175. So they're both going up $25, but why is Sundays less than weekdays? And then you got your 1 day entertainment permit on Sundays going from 75 to 85. 1 day permit on weekdays, 75. 1 day wine and malt permit, 75 to 85. I would think that the package store, all alcohol package store wine and malt is going up more. Anyway.
Some of that I can tell you is based on just to add another wrinkle to the challenge to document or establish fees. There are certain state limits. There's some like the licensing, I don't know, for milk, their milk sales is like $10 capped by state law. I mean, that's probably a bad example because I'm not remembering it exactly, but some of those are capped by state law. I think the rationale for Sunday license is also something that's in state law. Sunday licensing is always more, and I don't know the rationale. I can only suspect that it's more expensive to respond on a Sunday.
Or it's a holdover from the blue laws.
Well, exactly.
What is a TV? What does it mean for a TV license?
So if you have a television in your bar, you pay for that, a licensing fee. Not only do you pay for the cable, you actually pay for a license. And again, that's, it seems antiquated nowadays, but that's state law.
Everyone charges
Wow, I didn't know they.
Yeah.
it. Yep. The budget maker is the 1-day yard sale
So-
permit fee.
If these licenses are approved, have you factored any of this into how it might help our revenue or not help our revenue with fiscal 25?
No, Lori and I talked about that. We haven't done, this is not an effort that, at least at this stage, is calculated to be a revenue enhancer. All we're trying to do is make sure our fees are consistent with the towns around us, consistent with state law, and sort of enough to pay for the service that's actually being provided. So I don't think you'll see a very significant change in local receipts. In fact, I think you'll see a reduction in local receipts because local receipts have been dropping anyway, and so we suspect that we'll see another drop in local receipts this year. But this may help to mitigate some of that, but we haven't calculated these, from a revenue perspective.
Any other questions? I'll entertain a motion to recommend.
So moved.
Second.
There's a motion to recommend and there's a second. Any discussion? None? All those in favor?
I,
Aye. Motion passes. So this will be recommended to the council on next Tuesday's meeting. Next item is adoption of a 5-year capital improvement plan. You have that in the packet. I think Michael went over it at the council meeting. I'm sure he'll go over it again next Tuesday, but this is a normal, and I think I've always liked this report. I know it's hard sometimes to stick with it like A to Z, but I think we do the best we can to do this, and this is the result of what we were not able to do, 10, 12 years ago, but we have been pretty consistent, at least last 6 years, to have capital funds and have a capital plan, and to see the needs that some of our departments need on a capital basis. Not that everything is paid for in 1 year, obviously, but there are some big expenses coming down the road that the town will need to decide, and that's roads and things like that. So, does
make a
anybody
motion to recommend.
to recommend?
I'll second for discussion.
Okay, there's a motion to recommend and a second for discussion. Councilor George?
Thank you. So, first off, this is great work by everyone involved, including people on the call. This don't need to go into detail today, but I will say at the council level, if you're looking down the road, obviously we know roads are going to be a big expense. You've also got a pretty hefty debt exclusion included in that. I would be pressed to ask the question, if the debt exclusion doesn't pass, what's the plan for fixing the roads? I mean, I think, again, I think you mentioned at the meeting, Michael, this is just a plan. It can pivot. But I think that particular line item, I don't want to wait to pivot now, down the road, maybe a year or two down the road. It probably needs to be discussed now, not only for what we're going to see in the next fiscal year, but what you're going to see down the road in case we're not going to get the state aid. We know that. And if the debt exclusion doesn't pass, we still need to work on the roads. So on a particular point, I don't know if you're going to put it in here, but that should be kind of a plan B in order to have that just in case, because, like I said, I mean, you're looking at a, 60 down the road, $63 million debt exclusion, the majority of that going towards the roads, which are sorely needed. You know, especially if you're gonna do 25 million in maintenance in 2025. But, you know, I think the town has been very good at the last two debt exclusions for the Williams and the fire department. I don't think anyone's gonna argue that we need road work, but that's a big pill to swallow.
Mhm.
So.
No,
I don't know if we can discuss it per se, but I would put that as a discussion topic, not to say that not gonna approve the plan, but you know, that isn't something small that we can kind of, you know, move as things come along. I mean, you gotta have a plan A, plan B, maybe even a plan C. In order for us, you know, to get that moving. And I'm the first to say, everybody wants the roads fixed. How we get there is gonna be dependent upon what the public wants, but they have to understand if it goes in one direction, we can get it done potentially in, you know, 5 years. If it goes in another, it's gonna take a lot longer. But, you know, at the end of the day, when people walk in to make that decision, I want them to understand that if they vote one way or another, it doesn't mean that the roads aren't gonna be worked on, it's just gonna mean the timeline is gonna be potentially dramatically different.
Yep. No, I think you hit the nail on the head. And our job and what we talk about quite frequently is you know, our alternative funding methods. You know, our plan B, because I'm not confident that we'll be going, and I don't expect to be going to taxpayers and saying, you know, we need a debt exclusion for multi millions of dollars. I think by next year at this time, you'll see a slightly different approach within the capital plan, tapping TIP funds, you know, through the regional planning agency, something that this town has been reluctant to do over the years. So you'll see a lot of, I think you'll see a fair amount of revisions in how we finance the roads, and quite possibly, you know, an extension of the timeline. And we to the extent we have to, you know, we would begin to piecemeal, and we know exactly which roads require what kind of you know, changes, and some of them require, you know, wholesale changes, rebuilding, and those are the expensive ones. But otherwise, you know, to the extent that we can begin to piecemeal it, do sections or do components, drainage, you know, get drainage done, and then come back and do, you know, another piece a couple of years later, that's probably, you know, more the plan B.
In the complete streets report, that's still relevant to the priority of the streets that need to be worked on, correct?
Yeah, I say unfortunately so, because it's been now a number of years. The complete streets priority, the complete streets plan was done with a lot of public input, which is perfectly good. But once the prioritization is done, that's like has been static since that was done. Excuse me. And things change, you know, focuses change. So the things that, and we're continuing to apply for complete streets funding, but the things that we're applying for probably aren't, you know, the high priority repairs that the town needs overall. But it is additional funding, and it does get something done. But I think it paints a very disjointed picture for people in town that don't understand, you know, when you're, you know, doing, you know, curb bump outs on Main Street or on Central Square, you know, and people are, you know, driving through potholes down Bedford Street. They don't understand why you're doing these nice, pretty bump outs and not repairing Bedford Street. The answer is multifold. One, you know, the bump out was on the complete streets plan, and it's a priority under that 5, 6, 7, 8-year-old plan. And then the other piece of it is Bedford Street, you know, is state owned, and we don't, you know, control the work that goes on Bedford. But, you know, so it's hard to explain some of these things to residents. But, you know, one of the things we asked Jeff Fowler if he would be willing to do, and he would, is do sort of a series of videos that could play either on BTV or on Facebook, just outlining, you know, the condition of the roads, how decisions get made concerning the roads, all of that. Originally, we were thinking of that before any debt exclusion vote, but quite honestly, you know, we need to do that regardless of a debt exclusion vote, so people have a better understanding. So your point's all very well taken.
Yeah, and I appreciate that. And, you know, if I had my way per se, again, educating the public that if we've got a list of priority streets and we're going to address those as the current funding, state tip, whatever, without a debt exclusion, there may be years that nothing is done because we've got to save up enough money to do the top priority. I'm not trying to be anti-sympathetic to the other things that are needed, but if we keep fixing the things we can afford to fix, we will never be able to afford the things that we really need to fix. And that does take some time. And again, that's when, if there's going to be any type of debt exclusion, those are the things that people have to be educated on so that they go in, they understand that. And if we want it done yesterday, you vote one way. But, you know, I think what we've done, and this is my own personal opinion, not to be critical, is we've gone out, we've fixed the things that we can afford to fix. That does not help the overall picture in regards to that priority. And you'll hear about it, we always do, that the Complete Streets report's out there, and yet you look at that priority list and it's only been scratched upon. I understand that, but like you said, and I'm just throwing out numbers, if the number one priority is going to cost $7 million and we don't want to do anything other than normal course of business, if it takes us 3 years to come up with the $7 million to fix the street, that's the way it has to happen. And we've heard the criticism, and I can't say that I disagree with it per se, but it just at times seems like we go around fixing the quick fixes, the things that, you know, we have the money for. We've got to change that philosophy, you know, unfortunately, maybe to the detriment of the road itself. And, you know, then someone will come in and say, we'll never fix all the roads. Well, we have to deal, you know, with what we have in front of us, the resources that we have, and do it step by step. So, I mean, that's my personal opinion, with other people saying it as well. Others may be totally, you know, on the opposite side, which is fine. But I think these are the discussion points that we have to have for probably our biggest projected capital expense over the next 5 years.
Yep, completely agree.
Well said, Mr. George.
So, it was well said.
Well said.
Yeah.
Well said. Anyway, this is the proposed 5-year capital plan. Is there a motion to? Oh, there is. We already did that.
Yep,
We had
yep.
the discussion.
Yep.
Any further discussion? All those in favor of recommending?
Aye.
Aye. So the 5-year capital plan will be recommended to the council next Tuesday. Next order is FY 24-036 Town Department Capital Transfer. This is the kind of an annual transfer of monies to fund some capital projects and vehicles.
So,
Is there a motion to recommend?
motion to recommend.
Second.
Any discussion, Mr. George?
Michael, do the numbers add up?
Lori, do the numbers add up?
Eight years later, I'm still gonna ask the question.
Oh, I know. I know. Yes, and
I would take that as a yes.
yeah, yes.
Okay.
And just as a complete aside, I did want to point out that this year, as you've noticed, we've separated the school capital, general government capital, and then the enterprise fund capital. Just we feel that makes more sense to have 3 separate votes on those.
And I like that. It's much cleaner.
Yes.
Yep.
So there's a motion and there's a second. Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. So the capital transfer request order will be recommended to the council. We did item J. We're going to K now. Capital FY 24-038 capital transfer order. for the water and sewer fund.
Motion to recommend.
Second.
There's a motion to recommend a second. Any discussion on that order? Seeing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. So that has been approved. So the only item on here that we did not take any action on is the water and sewer rates. So just to clarify, Council Lindy, what information do you want to see at Tuesday night before the meeting? Just some examples of how much
Yeah,
it would affect the average taxpayer and so forth. Right? Okay, I just want to clarify.
residential and business.
Okay. Okay. So we will have a meeting before the council meeting Tuesday at 6:30.
Six,
6:30. It's fine.
yeah,
6:30.
6:30.
Public comment, is there anybody here from the public that wishes to speak during the public comment portion of our meeting before we adjourn?
I'll just say that my name is Joyce Caparis and I'm on the finance committee. And we also did not vote on that order last night for the same reason. There
Right.
wasn't enough information and they were talking about maybe put together a joint meeting. So if you could let Josh know that you're meeting at 6:30 before that meeting about this, maybe we could combine the two so we can all hear the same thing.
I'd be happy
Is that
to.
possible?
Deb, is that something you can reach out to Josh since he sits next to you?
Certainly, I can ask him tomorrow.
Sure.
Can I suggest that the meeting start at 6 PM though?
Ooh, we don't need an hour. What time's our council meeting? 7?
Seven.
7
Oh, yeah, okay. Why don't we do?
or 6:15? I just,
We're talking the 26th, right?
yeah, it's kind of a big town council agenda. So if it goes longer, it's just,
Yeah, I can do 6.
6. All right, thank you.
So set the meeting for 6 and invite the finance committee to join us either Zoom or in person.
Yep, I'll work with Josh tomorrow.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any other public comment? Seeing none, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
Second.
Motion to adjourn in a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
We are adjourned at 7:18 PM. Thank you.
Thank you.
Michael, thank you, Laurie, wherever you guys are. Thank you for zooming in.
Thank
Well,
you.
thank you.